All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. It is Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which means that yet again, we are on the How to Be Cheeky Visual podcast. My name is April.
I'm G.
And today we have an extra special guest. We have Jackie Eizak, who is our marketing manager / wearer of 12,000 different hats. Jackie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday.
Amaze. Happy Thursday. So the first question is my connection really messed up right now? Are you hearing a lot of glitches with my internet?
Hearing a couple glitches, yeah.
Okay. What I might have to do, I'm sorry to derail this thing as soon as we've started, but this hasn't happened before. So I think I should try to solve this. I'm going to try to get out and join back on with my phone and see if that works. And hopefully it will. Again, all of this business is going to
Where is the modem in relationship to you?
It's a whole long story. Listeners, I apologize. Listeners, watchers, I apologize for starting this in the way that every Zoom call starts, which is you're on mute. We've had technical difficulties, but we're not going to troubleshoot this online. Stand by. I'm going to just try to get back in with my phone and see if it works. And if not, I'm just going to go join Jackie in the other room. Okay. Goodbye. Okay. Talk amongst yourselves while I'm gone.
All right. Bye.
Later. Bye.
Great. Now she's gone.
Finally. Now we get to talk about whatever we want.
So I guess, yeah, I mean, we can continue. She will pop back up in a second and I will let her in. Hopefully the Wi-Fi fixes itself. So Jackie, how are things over at the office? What are you up to today?
They're good. In case for everyone who might not know, I'm actually in the office today. I work from home a few days a week, and then I come into the office a few days a week, which is also why I'm wearing a mask. April's in the office, but in a separate room. So that's why she's not wearing a mask. But it's going well. I mean, we're in the midst of a really big order, 300 plus kit order that we're banging out over here. So there's a lot to do. And then in terms of marketing initiatives that we're working on right now, I think our number one priority is developing our referral program, which I think we might get into a little bit later too. But that's something I've been working on today. And yeah, it's extremely hot as well. I don't know where our listeners are exactly in the world, but it's pretty nice out today in New York City, except we're on the 5th floor and heat rises. So that's not the best thing, but otherwise it's very nice to have a break from the horrible weather.
Yeah. So it's nice even outside as well, you're saying?
Yeah, it's so sunny, and it's not the winter sunny when it's just white, just they're white and no sun, no sky. It actually is sunny and clear, and you can see everything, which is so nice and makes commuting much better. Hello.
Nice. You're back.
Is this any better?
It's a little bit better.
I think so.
Okay. All right. I think we're just going to roll with this for now. And again, if it's terrible, just let me know and I'll traverse the hall and join Jackie. Okay. I don't know what I missed, but are you guys ready to roll into what our plan is for today?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. So G and I had a conversation yesterday in which we were trying to figure out what we're doing well with the podcast and what we really should be working on improving. And one of the things that seems to have surfaced both in our own sort of insight as well as from listener feedback is kind of leaning in more deeply into what's really going on with the business. Because certainly for me, I find podcasts or storylines most compelling if you really see kind of the behind the scenes, intimate, real nitty gritty of the business kind of from day to day. So that's what we're going to try to do today. G, I think, has a very unique perspective on this because she's both obviously an intimate part of the Cheeky team, but also is living in Amsterdam. So she's not in the office all the time. So I figured G can sort of moderate or guide this conversation. And Jackie and I are, face to face in the office multiple times a week. And then we're obviously working very closely together throughout the week as well. One more audio check. Did that come through clearly?
Perfect.
Okay, fabulous. Okay, great.
Awesome.
Great. So G, do you want to just start kind of guiding us through what we're talking about? And again, Jackie, I know we didn't talk about this really in depth, but let's give as honest of answers as we can. Obviously, there's a few topics that we may not go super deep on, but like the real BTS.
Okay, I'm ready.
Awesome.
Right. Cool. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna go about this in a little bit of a selfish way of like, I need to also understand what's going on. So these are questions that I also need to know and be updated on. And I think that our listeners and our viewers will definitely find interesting, because it's exactly like, what is everything that's growing and changing? What have the last 2 weeks kind of updates and like micro changes or adjustments that have been happening that are affecting the day-to-day, affecting progress? What kind of orders are causing us to look at the business a little bit differently, et cetera. So I guess I mean, starting kind of top line overall perspective, I know that we have recently been handling some really big orders, and it seems like things are just going. People are working really hard over there. You all seem to be doing a lot, and there's things with the studio. There's orders to be filled. There's marketing and website things that are going. So everybody is kind of chugging all cylinders. Do you want to just let me know like what is actually happening? Like, what are you guys doing in the office every day?
Sure. So I guess I'll take the like top line thing, and then Jackie chime in and fill in whatever gaps. So we've been, again, for anyone who hasn't watched all of our episodes in depth or listened in depth, where we're at is we launched almost exactly 12 months ago. So we launched the business. Typically there's like super slow organic growth, and certainly that was the case with the previous iteration of Cheeky, which was Swig and Swallow, the business. And I think, the timing around COVID, it went from people wanting to entertain in the home to everybody needing to entertain in the home, or, not being able to go out. And so like immediately there were more eyeballs on our business and businesses like ours than there ever would normally have been. And so I think correspondingly, we've grown super quickly, and we've had to kind of adapt and pivot and hopefully listen and build on the learnings that we've gotten in that period of time. And I think, and Jackie sees this like week by week, but even though we've been growing super fast, and in some ways things feel like stable and we have a real business, at the same time, we don't have like retailers for the most part, like any big box stores or chain stores or people who we know are going to order every week. The majority of our business is still like eventsy, meaning like corporate gifting or virtual happy hours and virtual cocktail classes. And so like the events world, we can have like 3 days out of the week where almost nothing's happening. And then we can have, like a 400, 500 kit order that needs to be turned around in a day or two. Or we'll have like pallets that we need to get out in 1 or 2 days, or else they don't want them. And so it's been, I think, and again, Jackie, feel free to jump in at any point, but I think part of the challenge and the opportunity is getting excited about it, knowing that it's growing, knowing we have to continue to feed it, and also figuring out ways to kind of like diversify our revenue streams so we're not reliant on any single event or any single sort of piece of the industry to keep us afloat, because we still have to invest in all the growth that we want to come. And so if you want to invest in that growth, you have to sometimes pay money before you actually know if you've got the business. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, is like, how do we balance where we're trying to go and not go too fast and not go too slow?
Right.
Yeah. And in terms of, just to add on to that, in terms of planning for the future and thinking about where we want to go next with Cheeky, that's something we've been, discussing a lot recently, and how can we continue to be a solution when bars and restaurants do reopen. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that, April too, but in terms of like our product offering and the services that we're providing, we're always looking for new opportunities to expand that in a post-COVID world, which feels very far away right now, but hopefully won't be.
Yeah. So So G, and again, I think I don't know if you've got any additional thoughts on this, but like in our team meeting, so we have a weekly Monday meeting for the entire team. In our team meeting, I was actually surprised by the way this conversation went. So one of the things on my mind is we have a lot of requests for a larger format bottle. We obviously don't want to overextend ourselves, necessarily double our inventory if we don't have to, meaning like once we launch another size, that means we've got to stock all 8 SKUs in that size as well. But we know there's demand for it. And we also know as people start throwing more, even small events, there is going to be increasing demand for that. And I really think that still is one of our hugest opportunities, is launching that next size up. And so in the team meeting, I had basically said, we've got 2 different bottle options. One has this tall, long, skinny neck, and one looks like a larger version of the Boston Round that we're using right now. And I was surprised by the mixed feedback that we got, because again, so many people in our team are bartenders that it was kind of half and half. Like some people, actually, I would say 2/3 preferring the Boston Round and then 1/3 preferring the long neck. But that's one of those questions where it's like, I know we need to launch it at some point. Timing is questionable. We obviously need to start testing it out before we commit to this to our fullest capacity. And surveying not only our own people, but other people within the trade is an important piece of that. And so I think to Jackie's point, obviously we have to continue to iterate and improve everything we're currently doing. And we also have to always keep in mind what those next steps are, because the world is changing quite rapidly. And I think, sure, being late to the game isn't the worst thing ever, and being early might be a little bit worse. To me, again, there's already obvious demand for this. And it's important that we try new things always. So anyway, I didn't mean to dominate that part, but
I'm wondering, as I think this might be like a half and half kind of a business strategy and a marketing strategy. I mean, the thing that I would want to be asking is what anticipations can we make of the bar and restaurant industry in its return to its like liveliness? And one of the things that I think is going to be, I mean, folks in the hospitality industry have been lobbying really hard in recent months to achieve like a financial stimulus or kind of like a recovery package because of the financial losses that they have had to suffer during lockdown. And I'm wondering if how are we thinking of or anticipating the huge need for bars and restaurants to keep their costs super, super low, and how to like present Cheeky as an option when this is also something that a lot of bars, not all of them, but a lot of bars make in-house.
Yeah.
So how are we kind of like being sensitive to that? Like they're going to need to do everything for the lowest possible overhead they can, and also providing a solution in that moment.
Well, yeah. So this is interesting, and I'm going to be a little bit meandering with this sort of response, but so one of the founders of the mattress company Casper is one of my mentors, and one of his comments at the beginning of COVID was, what's the restaurant opportunity? Because he's like, and again, I see a lot of literature about this, but people have spent hundreds of millions of dollars on ghost kitchens, right?
Yeah.
And I think we who come from bars and restaurants know that even calculating like labor and like the cost of doing fresh cocktails,
right?
It's even hard to keep under control because there's all the waste, and then there's obviously bartenders pouring, different amounts. But then there's also like, okay, well, what happens if we just don't sell through, and then we've got all this fresh product that we've invested all this time, effort, and money into? So I definitely think there's an opportunity. My response to him at the time was, that is not our immediate target audience right now, because we would need to have a distributor. We either need to self-distribute to bars and restaurants, or we need to have a distributor. Obviously, distributors take a significant margin, but they also, while there's a lot of pros, there's also the cons of we would have to give them a tremendous amount of shelf life, meaning that all of a sudden we'd have all these inventory sort of turning issues that as a little startup business, you really don't want to have if you don't have to have. Plus the fact that, again, generally speaking, restaurants are on terms, obviously. And obviously there's a lot of operators that don't pay their bills on time. And from my perspective, it was like, sure, if we raised like $50 million with venture capital funds, yeah, we could target that opportunity and not worry about making a profit. But from our perspective, it's like at the right time, that'll be a great opportunity, or it could be a great opportunity. Now, to your question about like the demand or like the need for that to happen, what I found from being a brand ambassador was, if you can avoid it, you do not want to force solutions onto anyone. You want people to figure out if they've got a problem, obviously have visibility to or awareness of your brand. But I don't like pushing sales on anybody. So if people approach us in the whatever next year or so and say, hey, this is a great solution for us. Right. Like, will you sell to bars and restaurants? Sure, let's look at it. But what's been interesting again is the majority of our sales have been incoming. We have not done outreach for almost any of them. And there's a ton of events professionals, experiential marketing companies, PR companies, spirits companies that have approached us being like, we are looking for a solution and you are the solution for it. So I would rather it be the pull of there's a need and hey, people happen to know about us. And I mean, I think there is an opportunity in particular with like, let's say chain restaurants, national accounts, hotel programs, where they need more turnkey solutions. Do I think that the craft cocktail bar is going to be like our bread and butter?
Right, of course.
If they want it, we'll sell to them, but I don't think that's who's going to want it, you know?
Yeah. I'm actually, I agree. And I think what I'm anticipating, I mean, kind of what I was also I want to kind of pick your brains about, and maybe Jackie, you can kind of speak to this, is like, what do you think are going to be the changes, the macro changes in behavior around socialization that are going to drive a different kind of hospitality or an evolution of hospitality that we actually haven't seen yet? And one thing that I am kind of anticipating is the sort of like bespoke grouping, rather than kind of everybody come to the bar and it all kind of gravitate around one central hub, either at hotels or restaurants, yachts, resorts, any of that. I think that as soon as anybody gets the opportunity, they're all going to get on a flight and they're going to go somewhere. But even when they're going somewhere, I think people have been so kind of like not used to being in massive crowds that there's also going to be a lag of like the normal, everybody kind of just jump into the concert and would be down with each other, and people still wanting to kind of have a circle in which they travel in that circle, they socialize in that circle. Like the bubble mentality, I think, is actually going to stick around for a little bit longer. And so having a kind of an option to provide group serves, I think, is going to possibly be really valuable to any sort of, like you said, like hotels, resorts, you know, places that would often are waiting and preparing to receive large numbers again. And so I'm just thinking, like, what are the kind of like herd mentalities or like group think behaviors that we're like imagining could happen when travel is possible?
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting question. Jackie, why don't you go first as our resident most social person who has a bubble?
Yeah, unfortunately, I now's not exactly the best time for social people in the world. But on that note, G, I actually have been thinking a lot about what working from home is going to look like in the future when things do start to open up a little bit more. And actually, like a former coworker of mine works at a company now that provides like healthy meal options to offices, obviously prior to COVID. And they're kind of looking at how to adjust to a post-COVID or like a COVID world where people are starting to go back into the offices. And, you know, he had reached out thinking that Cheeky could be a really great solution for them because it is, you know, more single serve option. I know, like in the past, for example, I've heard certain WeWorks have like beer on tap, like just like out in the office. I don't know if that's going to be something that's appealing to people moving forward. you know,
right. There's no more punch bowls at the staff parties ever again. There's some things that we just like as a global community will not be able to readapt, you know?
I know it's really crazy to think about, but with so many offices kind of moving to a more work from home or remote work model, even, you know, I know a lot of large companies announced they're going to be mostly remote even post-COVID.
Right. Permanently. They were like, let's stop paying rent on these big office buildings.
I know. And it kind of makes
Don't blame
sense.
them.
And
right.
Me and April were actually talking about this the other day with our friend Darnell about, you know, what co-working is going to look like when people at these huge companies no longer have these huge offices to go to. Like, our co-working space is going to become bigger again. How what solutions are they looking for to kind of bring people together in like a safe way? So I think as offices are kind of starting to open up a little more, that's something I've been thinking about a lot. But of course, you can only predict so much of how things are going to look.
Yeah, totally.
I'm actually going to take a little bit of a different, not angle, because it's not a different perspective, but like a different slice of the conversation here. So I actually posted today. I'm in this Facebook group. It's the Thirsty Facebook group on Facebook, obviously. And I had posted this morning. So I've been thinking a lot about trade shows, and I'd done some preliminary just Googling to see what bar and restaurant trade shows are still like active and planned for in person. And it's interesting because there's the I think it's the Nightclub and Bar Show is scheduled for end of June. And it's like, we're doing it. It's going to be in person, blah, blah, blah. So I had posted asking people, again, it's a trade. It's a primarily cocktail focused or spirits industry focused Facebook group. I posted this morning being like, just taking people's temperature. Like, what are people thinking about these large trade shows? Like June and afterward, how are people feeling? And honestly, I was expecting more people to be like, things are going to be fine by then. Again, I don't have a perspective either way. I was just like, how are people planning ahead? Because to be an exhibitor, you have to plan ahead for it. And again, I was just surprised that the sort of sentiment was way more cautious than I would have expected. And again, we've been very cautious about this. And so again, I think being prudent is our vibe. But I guess just seeing the sort of like general public, like, I want my liberty back. And maybe this is just like really skewed by the news, where it's like the news is like, all these people are maskless and all these people are like rebelling and like, you know, like out in the open. So maybe I'm just exposed to that much more media that suggests that's the case. But I was actually like, people are not as like optimistic and aggressive as I would have expected them to be. And so I think, G, to your point, because a number of people made comments being like, I'd be comfortable with like smaller sized events or like maybe no more than 100 people like through the end of the year, but like not more than that prior to end of 2021. And so I think to your point about like these little pods or bubbles, it's a really interesting point, because if you think about even the office space, like we went from like cubicle life to like the max best environment you could be in is that open room workspace. And then certain people started, and there's a lot of interesting, again, literature about this, but then people started saying, okay, this open floor plan thing doesn't work. People get too distracted. Like this may work for like startups where you're working hand in hand with somebody else on a project. But so it started going backwards. So like the WeWork vibe is like some open space, mostly office space, but within a shared sort of communal space. So it's just interesting seeing the trajectory.
Well, you know who just opened a massive office in the middle of the pandemic in Colorado is Gymshark. And I learned, Gymshark, I watched their video. My partner showed it to me. She was like, Gymshark is like moving over to the US, and they just built a massive office building in the middle of downtown Colorado. And they had this like awesome, super like real estate video drone walkthrough of their space. And it's all open setting with kind of like little bubbles to take private calls, and then like a big training room. So, it's interesting that you say that, because at this point now, they're no longer a startup for sure. I mean, definitely a huge business and expanding cross-continentally. And I was also like, really? Everybody's just like at big tables in the middle of the room, all working together. And he was like, yeah, this is the Gymshark way. And so, I mean, I thought it was interesting. I mean, similar to like what you said, I'm way too distractible for that. Need to be in a tiny bubble.
Well, I wonder though from that, and obviously I'm sure they're planning that significantly pre-pandemic, but I also wonder how much of that is like a sign that we've made it. Cause I think they were the fastest, like the company to grow fastest to like $1 billion or something like that. And it's like one dude owns it. It's like, I think that there's investors as well, but it's like, I mean, it's like the guy's like 25 or something like that.
Wow.
Anyway.
Okay. So we kind of went off. I want to maybe steer us back towards some other actual like cheeky specific questions that I had. And specifically around, I mean, we're talking about kind of like, you know, big macro trends and, you know, like global behavior. I mean, so bringing it back to cheeky, what is kind of our strategy as far as like our digital logistics? Like, even if the whole world was like 1 million cheeky orders tomorrow, like where do they put that ordering in? Like, how do we even handle or receive that kind of thing? And what's the plan for that?
Yeah. So, there's a website called Google that you can.
Oh my God! How dare you?
I'm just joking. It's obviously totally joking. But no. So I think this is I think one of the things that we're doing really well right now is that we launched with an e-commerce site, again, super easy to do, and we've done like tutorials and all that on how people can get started if they want to do that for themselves. But we launched in like the most basic way. So e-commerce site, we have a commercial kitchen and facility where we can fulfill, where there's like all the logistics around that, like loading docks, all the parcel services pick up every single day, like all those things were sort of ironed out. Then we started selling, again, we saw that there was demand for bulk orders. So orders drop shipped to people's houses. So virtual cocktail classes, happy hours, basically, again, groups that are trying to do this. So they'll be on Zoom together, but we're shipping directly to their houses. And then we started doing wholesale as well. And so we basically, the infrastructure from the digital perspective didn't have to grow much to accommodate at least the intake portion of the orders. So we're using QuickBooks to invoice. And then again, all the direct to consumer orders are coming through the website. Again, we've had to scale up our physical space to support that, but the launch of the larger bottle. So again, our products right now work great with people in the home, and they work great for these fragmented events where people are, again, joining the Zoom calls from their homes. Mm-hmm. The larger bottle, again, I think there will be demand for the home consumer, certainly as they have these pods, as you've mentioned, G. So again, the larger size, I'm assuming we're probably going to go with the 16 ounce, but it'd be 1 liter of spirit, 1 bottle each of our citrus and our sweet, batch together, no measurement required, yields 15 to 20 cocktails. Mm-hmm. The cool thing is, to your question, we are the elements we're going to have to scale up to support the launch of that as well, which again will shepherd us into the rest, like as COVID goes away, as social distancing goes away. The infrastructure we're going to need to build up, and we've been trying to build up, is like, how do we manage inventory for these different revenue streams? Like, how do we have a single centralized inventory system? Because again, the website can handle it all. The website's not the problem exactly, but we need basically one solution. And I'll turn it over to Jackie now, because she's been like drowning in this stuff for months. But that's a macro answer to that. Jackie, hit it.
Well, yeah, I think in terms of figuring out digital solutions for the business, especially when it comes to a startup, you're kind of figuring out what you need as you go, you know, in addition to anticipating things in certain areas, of course. So for me, I think the best course of action is really to see like what are at first small changes you can make to make the user experience better on the customer side and on the business side as well. What are things that we're kind of missing? and where are areas that there's, a smaller solution that we can implement, and where are areas where a larger solution is needed, like an inventory management system, or even a CRM system, which was something we onboarded a lot earlier. And for example, we use our CRM system mostly to help our internal team track and manage large wholesale and bulk orders. And it's really been a big help for us, especially not having everyone in the office every single day or everyone together at the same time, versus we haven't been using it as much as, a sales tool, for example, or, a tool to kind of build up our relationships with customers.
So Jackie, I think we need to let's delve a little bit more deeply into that. So CRM is a customer relationship management piece of software. And so in our case, we're using something called Pipedrive. Basically what we realized, and again, I think this is the benefit of seeing the need and being attuned to the needs of the business and then responding to it. Obviously, again, we're always looking to the future, but it's helpful when you can see that there's a problem and you have to fix it as well. And so in this particular case, as our volume of orders increased dramatically, where there was a sort of client services element to it. So it was we'd get an email inquiry or from the contact form on our site, and we'd need to have a conversation with them. What was happening is Jackie was handling all of those upfront conversations. And then she'd be like, oh, and all of a sudden we have whatever. We've got this 10 kit order, this 500 kit order, this 30 case order. And we didn't know about it at the warehouse. Again, this all happened very quickly. And so we're like, well, damn, we need some way to understand what's in the pipeline. So we can adjust how we're planning for inventory, and we also can staff against it and all that stuff. Yeah. And so this was one where there was the demand, and then Jackie really beefed it up and connected it with email and things like that, and is now scheduling follow-ups in there as well. So not only are we able to see deals as they come through the pipeline, and we understand if it's just a kind of cold inquiry, if the needs are identified, if we've sent invoices, if the invoice has been paid, has the product been shipped. Not only are we able to shepherd that across there as well, but we're also able to say, great, G has purchased from us 5 times. This is what her purchase history looks like. This is what our interactions have looked like with her. So
that's awesome. I can imagine that is such, that's hugely valuable for also anticipating how to improve user experience, which was something that I wanted to ask a little bit more, because you touched on it briefly, Jackie, about my small adjustments that could be made to improve the customer's experience, I guess, of the user interface that is our website, that might encourage them or make things easier. I'm wondering what is your kind of insight into an example of a small adjustment we've had to make to improve that experience or the user interface?
Yeah, I definitely have some examples of that, but I think in terms of improvements you can make on whatever CMS system, which is where your website is hosted, whether it's Squarespace, Shopify, any of those big hosting sites, I would say the first thing you really need to realize is that nothing is going to be absolutely turnkey, out of the box, the exact solution that you're looking for, without throwing an incredible amount of money at it. So I would say go into it with a bit of understanding that you can only do so much. I think sometimes I almost get bogged down too much in the details of oh, what can I code to fix this little thing to make it more branded or something like that. But you kind of have to work with what you have at a certain point. So I would say go in with that understanding, first things first. And after that, honestly, these kind of optimizations are one of my favorite things to do.
And you're very good at that. This is I feel like we really lucked out with Jackie being both interested in that and also very good at it, because again, I have the patience to do some of it, and then I get really irritated when when it's a long drawn out thing. So Thank you, Jackie, for saving my life.
Thanks, April. Anytime. I mean, I'm like the kind of person where I'm like, I'll learn how to do coding if it means I can like make this add to cart button like move up on the page, like which is actually something that we did. I mean, thank God for Google. There's a lot of solutions out there, but we use Squarespace to host our site, and it's a really great platform, really easy to drag and drop things. But at the same time, there are some user experience things that I wanted to improve, and one of them, like to give you an example, which you asked for, was that the add to cart button on our product page was kind of below the photographs. And so customers would have to scroll down, and it wasn't intuitive from the very minute they clicked on the page how to add that product to the cart. So that was a solution I was excited to be able to figure out, because for the customer, you want that seamless experience of, I know I want a margarita, and like I don't want to have to go through a million steps just to get it and add it to my cart and check out. Yeah. So it's about making those little improvements, and then they kind of add up into like a bigger, more user-friendly experience for the customer. And that's always the goal. You kind of have to have that in mind the whole time. And another tip on that note that I would say is, get your friends to test out your website, get your coworkers to test out your website, see where the pain points are, because at a certain point, you've gone over it so many times, you're going to miss things. And so it's really helpful to have that support and be able to get that feedback and then implement it moving forward. Yeah. If that makes sense. Yeah.
I would say, just one other thing, like that was obviously specifically website related, but I think an example, another, like, again, one step back example is we started off with Squarespace, and then we were slapping all these different types of software onto it. So we had like a bunch of plugins, like multiple different affiliate programs that we had tested out. And then you've got to figure out, like, does it integrate with Squarespace? Does it only integrate with Shopify? And so we did a lot of those things. And so we've tried to minimize that, because you can have, like, at one point we had Squarespace, we had Aftership for like the text shipping confirmations afterward. I think we had Delighted, which is it's the Net Promoter Score, so it lets you know if it sends a note to your online customers like a couple of weeks after purchase to see how they liked it. Again, I think we had Peaches, which was the affiliate program. We had Share a Sale, which is another, we were using that affiliate program. Stamps.com. We had to do the shipping, like. You can, like, it's literally like grafting, a cactus together, like all these different like knobs onto this cactus. And so then we said, great, wouldn't it be cool if one piece of software did all of this? And so we found NetSuite, which I heard about on a podcast, and it's an enterprise planning software. And we were like, wow, this looks amazing. Looks like this could be perfect. And then I think they quoted us like $60K to set it up or something like that. We're like, maybe not right now. But the point is like, this is clearly a problem for all businesses as they grow. And at the proper time, we'll have like the ability to move into that, where all of the, like, the inventory management and the shipping systems and the website and, again, the CRM, all these things will work together. But currently there's a lot of the Frankenstein thing and a lot of manual. And that's just how it goes at this stage. So
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can imagine that, of course, there are services where it's like you call up and you have a developer assigned to just your product, and they create like a custom dashboard and like manage all of our APIs and things like that. So, and of course, that is a massive job, and they make lots of money doing that.
I also have to say that, like, I don't think I would ever hire an individual to do like any of these large sweeping changes, because there's a reason that they charge $60,000 for this software as a service. Like, there's a reason, and it's because they have, I'm assuming, hundreds of engineers working on this shit. There's a lot of potential pain points. No, I mean, no. But this stuff, there's a reason. It's a very complex thing, and you want to make sure you've recourse if something goes wrong. So, anywho.
Yeah.
Cool. So, I mean, we're creeping up on our 40-minute mark. I wonder if there's anything that I know, right? Zoom.
Yeah, I know.
I know that there was a lot more that I wanted to ask about. I'm wondering if we have time for one more.
Let's do one more, and then we can just continue this into next week. And then if we've got questions from listeners as well, then we can pop those in too. Yeah. Cool.
So I think the last thing this is probably a bigger question, but this focus, I'm really appreciating to hear that there's so much kind of like customer experience focus on business optimization. And I think that that's a really great place to start. And just kind of like move out from is like, how are we meeting the need? How are we responding to expressed like desire and experience and things like that? So I guess the next step I would ask is like, how are we continuing a relationship with customers in a way to like build on that? I know that there's some people who are already like, they've ordered from us 5-6 times, but like, how did that happen? I mean, other than it's just an amazing product, I imagine there's got to be some kind of intentional relationship building to keep that, to bring people back. So what is the process for that?
Well, and Jackie, you can, why don't we split this up and you take one and I can take the other? But there's a distinct difference between the direct-to-consumer customers and the people who order bulk and wholesale. Jackie, which one do you want to take?
I mean, I can do the e-commerce customers from our site.
Cool.
Yeah, and I mean, part of... I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this. I mean, if I'm being like quite blunt, we don't really do much retargeting when it comes to like outreach to repeat customers. I think the fact that we don't do much of that currently, and we're still seeing a lot of customers coming back, and this is just, I'm talking again, just the direct to consumer side through our website. I think it shows how much potential we have and how great of a product we really do have that people actually want. And I think a lot of obviously there are whole systems and platforms that are just about retargeting your current audience. And I think providing like touch points for the customer, like making sure you have impeccable customer service and having a chatbot on your website is a great example of how to do that. But at the same time, people are so like inundated with ads and promotions 24/7 that really the main thing is having a solution that people want and then building from there. So I think as we beef up our marketing strategy, that is something that we'll move into more. Right now, it's really just having a great product and having great customer service, honestly, and a really short turnaround time. People really appreciate that. Yeah, that's what I most have to say about that, April. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I think my only add on there is I do think we are really listening. One thing we really need to do, and we have to figure out who can do this because this might be overwhelming. But so when we get the Net Promoter Score back from Delighted, people rank you on a scale of 1 to 10 of like what their experience was like. And then there's the ability to leave comments. Mm-hmm. We read all of them. What we do not do right now, and again, this is a big miss for us, but we do not respond to them. What we really need to be responding to them. Again, it's just there's like 8 billion things to do, but we read all of them. And so from my perspective, like the really listening, both on like in that regard, obviously any customer service stuff, and then as well on social of like what people are saying. I really think that we are like hyper leaning into that. So for example, we're redesigning the inbox cards. We're making it into like a little booklet. So there's more recipes in there, not because people seem like they've been having a ton of trouble with it, but because it seems that people always want more recipes. And so if that's something that they just generally want, even though they don't see that as a problem, we are constantly looking for those opportunities to build that in and to make that better. So that's the only build I have on that one. Yeah. And then I would say on the wholesale and bulk side, it turns out that B2B sales are relatively straightforward. It's like, are you responsive? Are you professional? Do you help? Do you just deliver good client services? And again, Jackie has done almost 100% of that for us, which again, I super appreciate because again, it's a lot to keep up with. And Jackie, I appreciate you very much. It can be like an overwhelming amount of back and forth. And so it's really, I think it's just delivering, like being consistent, being professional, so people know what to expect. And again, whenever possible, even though we quote for bulk and wholesale orders, even though we're like, you should allocate 7+ business days from when we receive the order addresses and payment to the day it's delivered. Even though we say that, if we can ship it same day, we're gonna. And we're, like at whenever
I thought you were going to say, often you're getting requests where they're like, we need 2 million cases tomorrow. Maybe we'll let you know in the morning.
but that's the thing is, I think, and this is like, back to my days of, for the first time ever reading Danny Meyer's book, Setting the Table, like his whole philosophy of enlightened hospitality is this, which is we truly care about the customer. And I think that shows because we are at every opportunity, we are trying to make this a better experience for them. And it's really basic. It's super basic.
Sorry. Just one small thing I wanted to add on to that too, that I've actually found has made somewhat of a difference. And I think it sets you apart because unfortunately not everyone does this, is let a little time pass after, their event has happened or they've received the order and follow up with every single customer. You want to be able to actually let them know that you care about their feedback. And it's already happened with us. Like a bunch of times they'll say, I really love this product. Like I actually have another event coming up. Like, thanks for following up. We'd love to get you on board for this next event. So not only is it showing them that you really value their feedback, but it's also an opportunity to gain new business. So, and it's free, just sending an email.
Yeah. I agree. And I just wanted to add one little point that even as a direct to consumer, I've noticed in 2 instances, I have been retargeted by 2 different brands. And I actually was appreciative. One of them was for Zenvo, which is like a startup clip-on camera. They make like digital camera solutions. So there's like a clip-on camera that goes onto your iPhone. And it's supposed to be like a lifetime item, right? Like you have a warranty. His whole idea is you're never going to have to buy another one of these. So it's like, how does he kind of keep people coming back? And I think he's developing, I'm saying he, because it's always been the same person, like Kai, who's always in the emails and does all their promo and is I think their CEO, right? And so like it's been almost a year since I purchased this item. I didn't receive any kind of like harassing emails. But just recently I received a follow-up email with a blog article on how to take the best iPhone photos and just to check in to be like, how is your product treating you? Are you still happy with it? Is there anything we can do to improve your lifetime experience with our product? And I was just like, oh my gosh, this feels so genuine. It's actually helpful. I do feel like it made me remember that I wasn't taking as much pictures using this lens. And I was like, and here is a way to kind of redirect me to something that I already care about, which is like learning how to take better pictures with whatever tools I have on hand. So I don't know.
That's good to know. Yeah, that's a good, it's a good point because I mean, as Jackie had said, we're really not doing that on the direct to consumer side. And that's something we're about to lean in on more is like, as you know, G, we have a lot of content that we're going to be working on in the next, in particular week, but the next couple weeks. And that we're going to start putting out through, testing through Facebook advertising. So that'll be good to see too, because again, I think that's probably our biggest gap in terms of like our marketing initiatives is like what happens when you like digitally retarget somebody rather than manually retarget them. Right. So
right. Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Lots to think about.
Guys, this was awesome.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thank you both for having me on.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, of course.
So to be continued.
Yeah, I think to be continued. I think we might have a strategy session on how on like a conscious, non-obnoxious way to retarget people.
Yeah.
Through the direct-to-consumer line, right?
We need to learn it, so we might as well share it.
Yeah, right. Awesome.
Cool. Okay.
Well,
all right. Well, have a lovely day, y'all. G, thank you for moderating this.
Thank you.
This was great. And Jackie, I'll see you in like 30 seconds. G, goodbye.
Miss you. Miss you. Thank you for telling me what's going on in the office in New York.
We can't wait for you to come back.
I know. Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great day, guys.
Take care.